What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and I am going to be water cooling some 1080s coming up here pretty soon for the Skunkworks update. So I like to take the opportunity when I can to show you guys something to do with water cooling. And every single time I've upgraded my graphics cards and done water cooling blocks, I've done a tutorial on how to install said blocks. And we're going to be using the EKWB GTX full cover nickel plexi water block for this tutorial. I don't have a black backplate at the time of doing this tutorial, but when I do the Skunkworks builds, I will have one. But the reason why I really want to do this video is I've not taken this card apart yet, and I've seen some people say that the back plates are kind of hard to get off on these. I'm not sure if that's true or not, so I figured, well, let's do it together and see whether or not that claim holds any water, and at the same time, you guys might actually learn something. So let's go ahead and rip this thing apart. That's always fun. I love taking stuff apart. If you're a hardcore gamer and love to customize stuff, then check this out because Massdrop has a drop going for the Maito DSA Sci-Fi Keycap set. Buyers have the choice to build whatever custom kits they want, including color schemes and layouts. They even have layouts for Planck, Preonic, Ergo Docs, and non-standard layouts for Razer, Corsair, Logitech, and Cooler Master, and heck, they even have Nordic, German, and UK layouts covered as well. For full details about this drop, head to the link down in the description. Now, one of the things that makes the 1080 a little different than other reference cards, with the exception of the standard 980, not the 980 Ti, is that it has a backplate. Typically, NVIDIA doesn't put backplates on their cards, but this time they did because they're trying to make it a retail card, and they put a backplate. And it's a nice backplate. It's plastic, but some folks have said it's hard to get off, and I'm not sure if that's true or not. Now, taking a look here, I can see there's a lot of tiny little Phillips head screws on this thing, and then a couple of larger standard Phillips head screws, and then of course you've got your GPU spring-loaded screws right here. So I don't see anything really that looks too difficult. It's got a seam right here, so this looks like this is a different part than the front, so it's gonna be a two-piece back plate, it looks like. So I've got this guy here, just a little T-handled screwdriver, Husky brand, so it's a Lowe's brand, but it's got some bits that fit down in there. Now these aren't gonna be on there too tight, again, because this is plastic, but you certainly don't want to strip one of those out. That would suck. This backplate's actually already been taken off before. EK had this card before me. Well, actually, I shouldn't say before me. I had the card, and then I sent it to EK for them to verify their block design on, because for whatever reason, NVIDIA did not send them a card. So I sent them mine, and they've already taken this thing apart. But these screws are so freaking tiny. I mean, you can kind of get an idea right there just how small those screws are. Really small. It's one of the reasons why I like the T-handle or any sort of ratcheting screwdriver is I can keep downward force on it, and then I can just turn this to get the screw out, and it doesn't pop off or slide off or anything like that, especially when you're dealing with such tiny screws. I know the video just really doesn't show you how small these screws are. So all of the screws for the back half have been taken off. And there's that. As you can see, it just comes right off. So far, this seems pretty dang straightforward. The only thing I can see here, in each one of the places where there would be a screw, one of these tiny little backplate screws, is a standoff, a threaded standoff that they screw into. So, I mean, I guess you just have to go through and take each one of these off, but that's really just a little bit of an extra step. It's not that big of a deal. Look like they might be maybe a 4mm. Now with the reference cards, there's also screws right here on the face that you have to take off. There's one right there and one right here. So you have to make sure you take those two screws out as well. I'll only remove these two right here though, because the other screws are actually holding the outputs here to the shield. That way they don't break when you plug in your port or your cables. So it's just these two in the middle that have to come off. Okay, and then over here in the corner, we have a couple of regular size screws. So these are spring loaded. Once you get them completely threaded out, they'll just pop up. These hold tension exactly on the four corners of the GPU core. I missed a screw. So you could take off the back plate without having to undo those four screws. I thought so. Would seem weird if you couldn't. So there we go. There's our two-piece back plate taken off. And here you can see the 1080 doesn't have any RAM mounted on the back of the GPU. So adding an aftermarket backplate to this will add a little bit of heat dissipation from a company like EK, because it puts a thermal pad right here on the back of the die. A lot of heat actually comes off the back of the core right here, and then the plate can help dissipate some of that heat. But a plate like this here, This is purely aesthetics. This is purely an aesthetic backplate. I got really lucky. I just happened to have a 4mm socket in here. Don't even ask me why, I don't remember why. But it's the size that you need to remove these standoffs here. So if you guys are wondering, it is a 4mm that you need here. All right, there we go. It looks like I got all of them. I don't see any of them missed here. Let's go ahead and pull this apart. Gently. Gotta be gentle because the paste makes a pretty good bond when it gets heated. And yeah, there we go, just like that. Now inside the EK packaging, you're gonna get all the screws and hardware that you need to install your block, thermal paste, plugs, Allen keys. You've got your thermal pads here. What's interesting is the pads are pre-cut for the RAM, but they're not pre-cut for anything else. You will need scissors to cut these, and the instructions here will tell you what to cut and where to put it. I always recommend, I know us men are like, we don't need instructions, but yeah, you should really pay attention to the instructions, trust me. And then of course, we have the block in all of its glory. Look at this. I think the nickel plexi block looks so good. I like nice clear blocks. It looks very, very elegant, I guess would be the word. And then if you look at the way it is on the card, it looks like that. It just looks so nice. Now I like to keep the box as a bit of a workbench, if you will, because this hangs down. When you go to flip that over to put your backplate or your screws on the back of the card, it can actually hang off the edge like that and gives you a better area to work on. Because if you do it like that, then the block's gonna fall and it makes it a lot harder. So I keep the block around, or the box around, as a bit of a workbench. So I've already cleaned off the GPU core right here. I use isopropyl alcohol and a lint-free cloth of some sort. A lot of people like to use coffee filters. Those tend to work pretty well. But I'm now referencing the instructions here so I can see which of the pads go where. Now you've got a thicker pad, a 0.5mm pad, and a 1mm pad. So number 3 here is the 1mm. As you can see, it's what's going to be covering all of the VRMs back there. Number 2 is going to be the thinner pad, and it is the one that gets put on all of the chokes right here. The square things are the chokes. So we're going to be actually active cooling the VRMs right back here, and then the chokes for those as well. So what I like to do, that way I know which way to cut, is I like to just kind of take it here, put it where I need it to go, and then push it down like this. Push it real hard, because then it makes an imprint on here. I don't know how well you can pick that up. It makes an imprint, and I can see exactly at that point where I need to cut. Let me see if I can get this. Ah, there we go, like that. You can see where the components are, so now I know where I can cut my length. Sometimes pulling off the backing is the hardest part. Now it might stretch a little bit too when you pull the backing off, because it is really, really soft. So if it does, you might have to trim it down just a little bit more. It did stretch a little bit when I pulled it off the backing, so I'm going to trim it like that. In place. And there. And once that's in place, then we need to peel off the blue backing. Just like that. So there's one set of thermal pads. And I basically do the exact same thing here for the chokes. I'm also going to cut this one a little bit long ways because it is a little bit too wide. I mean, these don't have to be perfect. You just have to make contact and lay it across just like that. Make sure it's nice and sticky. If you find that your thermal pad doesn't stick, it might still have some residue left over from the pads that come on the factory cooler. These are very greasy, so you might find that that's the reason why it's not sticking very good. So if that's the case, take some alcohol, rub it on the components, let the alcohol dry, use compressed air to help dry it, and then you'll find it will stick a lot better. The same goes for the RAM. Now the nice thing about the thermal pads for the RAM is it is already cut. Now once all the thermal pads are on, it's time to do the thermal paste, and they include a non-conductive Ecotherm, EK-TIM they call it, thermal interface materials, what TIM stands for. Now this is the part everyone likes to get controversial about. How do you put it on? Well, as you can see right here in the instructions, EK recommends the X plus across. Now obviously when you have an opening as big as the tip of this thing, ladies, it gets a little bit difficult to do that without there being a shit ton of paste. So I'm gonna think on this one here, because this die is pretty small, I'm just gonna do the cross. It's gonna be more than enough thermal compound. What we really wanna make sure here though is that we don't Actually, I'm gonna do a dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there. There. I know that just looks really globby and ugly, but again, you guys know it's really difficult to get a nice thin stream of paste. What matters is that every square millimeter of this is covered, and it's okay if it squishes out along the side. But you obviously, if you put way too much, nothing terrible is gonna happen. Watch this video right here if you guys don't believe me, but this is more than enough, and it's not too much. It's more important that you have enough rather than too little. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna line up our water block here, flip it over. Now you guys can see why I like to use the box. And if you were using a back plate at this time, you would use the manual for the back plate to see which screws you could put on first. Then you put on the back plate and then use the back plate screws to connect the rest of it together like a sandwich. Because I don't have a back plate yet, those are coming in the mail. And this isn't one of the cards that's actually going in Skunkworks at the moment. I'm finishing out this video for the sake of it to show you guys how it goes together. Now you want to use these little plastic standoffs or these little plastic washers here every time you use a screw. That way it doesn't bite into the actual card material itself. These also just make sure that the screws themselves aren't going to be shorting out or pinching on anything. Also, the manual says to do it, so that's why I'm doing it. Now I always start with the four corners around the GPU first because that's obviously where the most important amount of torque be put down on the card or the block, because we want to make sure the GPU is getting nice even torque on it. So we get good thermal compound spread, as well as making sure that we're not going to be overheating because we have any sort of gaps in there. Now tighten down till snug and do a star pattern. Again, that's a cross pattern. Go diagonally and then go to the other corner and then go diagonal again. That way you're going to get nice even pressure on the block and the die. Don't over tighten. You can easily strip out the block. Remember, it is made of copper. So if you over tighten this, then you end up stripping the block, and then you don't do yourself any favors whatsoever. And then once you're done, just give it a little bit of an extra turn. Again, not too much force, and that is all you have to do. So you're gonna work from these corners right here. These four don't get any screws, but you're gonna work outward till the entire block is done. Now in this corner right here, you're gonna use one of the screws and nuts that come with the, yeah, screw nut, I get it. So you're gonna use the one that comes with the kit right here to make sure that this front plate has something to screw into, because that's actually where the front plate mounts right there to the card. If you don't do that, then you could end up putting too much torque on this plate and bend it, and you don't want to do that. All right, there we go, fully installed. And like I said, if you were doing the back plate, the only difference is like these outer screws right here typically are the ones that mount the back plate down. So you'd put the plate on with its thermal pad right here and then put the screws for the plate on there, and then there's your back plate. But yeah, as you can see right there, not too difficult, and it looks pretty slick. So there it is, the GTX 1080 water cooled. Now we'll be doing some testing with this guy here to see if water cooling gets us any additional headroom when it comes to overclocking. I don't expect too much, but I hope temperatures stay really low. That was one of the nice things about the standard 980, was the fact that temperatures were super low with that compared to the big Maxwell chip like Titan X and 980 Ti, which got significantly hotter in my loop than the 980s did. So it'd be nice to bring those temps down. And I'm actually thinking about going with 2 1080s instead of 3, not because of the three-way conflict, but really about heat and really there being more power in there than I truly need. But anyway, it's an enthusiast build, and I guess going over the top is kind of what we do around here, isn't it? Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I just want to make this quick video where I document putting on the block, because I know that there's people out there that are going to be watching for that. Make sure you guys, if you guys are going to get EK blocks, make sure you use the EK configurator to make sure it's going to work with your card. As of the filming of this video, the only card that is supported by EK's Waterblocks EK Waterblocks is going to be the Founders Edition PCB or Reference PCB. They might come out with other boards in the future, but as of right now, the Founders is the only one that's actually included with the lineup and is covered, no pun intended. All right guys, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.